Welcome back, YouTubers, to our Wrestlemania A-Team review. Icon versus Icon, NJ. What a great match that was.
What icons?
These two icons here on this DVD. These guys were at the front of the DVD, but they weren't the main event. But anyway, we're the British Fist.
Gotcha!
I am Mr. Parkin, and this is NJ breaking out of his Terminator NJ gimmick and being normal NJ for this review. Thank God.
What's up?
Indeed. Keep subscribing up above, guys. Keep liking this video and comment your thoughts on Wrestlemania 18, especially Rock vs. Hogan, down in that comment section below.
Make sure you contact us in the link in the description box below.
Yeah, it's hard to really remember anything else when after watching Rock Hogan, really, isn't
Very
it?
true indeed.
This WrestleMania was essentially known for being Icon versus Icon. That was the main draw for the WrestleMania and the front of the DVD. This took place from the Sky Dome in Toronto, Canada. They managed to set a new attendance record there, 68,200 people watching the matches, and we had Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on commentary as well, our favourite team.
And when it comes to this, again, the fact they made a big deal that they've outdone their last year's, and the fact they're promoting the biggest match of obviously the year and so on, it was very built up, I thought. Yeah,
I mean, you had a lot to follow after WrestleMania 17, really, didn't you? I mean, you had the invasion angle. I mean, this is the first WrestleMania after that stupid invasion angle. The final WrestleMania under the WWF name. I don't really think WWE was ever really the same since. But you had so much happening from 2001 to 2002 coming to this WrestleMania. You had the whole Undisputed Championship being done as well. So much going on in that year, wasn't there? Not all of it being very good, though.
No, it wasn't.
I think the first thing I'll say about this WrestleMania is we had 11 matches, and 11 matches was a bit too much for this card, wasn't it? Because a lot of matches didn't go enough time.
Well, in our review, you're going to hear that some of the matches that we got, we don't really agree with and don't think they should have been there, or maybe they should have been taken out to make other matches longer. Time. So you'll hear that as we go through. But yes, 11 was a bit too much.
We open with a performance from Saliva. They had the official theme song. Can't remember what the song is. We kind of skipped this because we wanted to see the event itself. We started off the second straight WrestleMania where William Regal has opened for the Intercontinental Championship this time against Rob Van Dam. Van Dam was pretty over, wasn't he? Especially after being like one of the members of the Alliance, the ECW. So again, we had an Intercontinental Championship opening the card. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it, but Van Dam winning for the title from Regal was a good little pop, wasn't it?
Well, the way I see this is that we had Jericho the champ last year,
and he's now in the main event.
That's so big. And the thing is, we've got Regal's the champ now, and with me personally, as much as I support Regal, this match wasn't as big, I felt, as last one, but Rob Van Dam in the match, it added something to it, to the way he performed and as a wrestler. Yeah,
I mean, the match was very quick. It only went about 6 minutes. Still a decent opener, though, mainly because of Van Dam winning the title, which is the only reason that really made it a decent opener. But this, again, lack of time. Only 6 minutes to start the show off. Similar to last year, really.
It's normally with opening matches, you want them to get the crowd going, kick the show off, and this match, as much as it was an Intercontinental, it didn't give a positive feeling, not really.
Next on the card, we had Diamond Dallas Page. Self high five in WCW versus Christian, the hometown hero. You gotta love Christian for doing that smile. This whole storyline was based on the fact that Christian had a losing streak, and he had his mentor, DDP, who was telling him to be more positive and stop having temper tantrums. And, you know, he turned on his mentor, DDP, the Raw before WrestleMania, and this set up the European Championship match. Again, this suffered from lack of time, didn't it?
Again, this is not like a huge match, and when I think of it, yes, it's the European Championship, but it's not like a proper good build-up. It didn't have like a, oh, I can't wait to see this match feeling, which was kind of disappointing because it's WrestleMania. WrestleMania should have that kind of feeling. But with this match, DDP and Christian, not the most exciting matches, but it's still the European Championship on the line at WrestleMania.
It was the second of 3 championship matches in a row. I mean, DDP, again, it was a WCW guy. He was never really going to get used by WWF really properly because we all know Vince wasn't going to push a WCW guy, even though he was kind of over. You got Christian in his hometown, and you have DDP winning the Diamond Cutter. He got a decent reaction. You had the Christian temper tantrum afterwards. Kind of funny.
Christian the Seal.
6 minutes, though, just wasn't enough, was it?
No, and the fact that it seems to be a trend at the minute, 6 minutes for the first match, 6 minutes for the second match. Again, maybe these other title matches could have been made longer, but at the same time, these two matches, didn't really give it like a wow feeling, so it didn't really matter.
It was only really made good by the fact the faces won, in my opinion. But anyway, those first 2 matches were very underwhelming, especially for WrestleMania. But this wasn't underwhelming. Backstage interview with The Rock, where he basically tells Coach to say his prayers. What up, G? What up, G? Just saying some prayers from down here, down on the planet E. And that was funny, wasn't it? The Rock.
What the blue hell are you doing?
Oh,
get out of here!
That was so funny. I miss those backstage interviews because they could really help pick up a show, couldn't they?
Well, with The Rock, obviously, they know that they're going to get a good reaction out of him, they're going to get entertainment out of it, and for him to be with the coachman, who obviously people have different opinion about, it added something to it, and it was a good segment backstage.
Yeah, just a shame you followed it up with Maven versus Goldust for the Hardcore Championship. What the fuck was going on? Right, okay, Maven won Tough Enough. God, how much of a disappointment was this guy? He eliminated Undertaker from the Rumble, became the Hardcore Champion, never really saw that much else in, but goddamn, we had Spike get the win, running out of the arena. And then throughout the night, we had all these things where Hurricane, Molly Holly, then Christian, then Maven won the belt back again. God, this just sucked.
The thing I want to say about this match is that I've said in past WrestleMania reviews, I do like it when you have like other wrestlers getting involved. So this was the first WrestleMania that you actually see backstage wrestlers, things they continue doing, hardcore attacks. But at the same time, the fact that they went back to Maven made me think the match he just had at the beginning was not needed because he's just got back. So maybe Christian should have ran away with it.
It is true. Give the hometown boy something, maybe. So yeah, not exactly not my favourite hardcore match. Just put it that way. It wasn't that good, really. Even
For a WrestleMania match, only about 3 minutes, and that was disappointing. But again, the best thing about it is like the Goldust used gold weapons. So something that stands out. But it was still like, ooh, what a hardcore match! No, it was kind of disappointing.
God, Maven sucked. Why did Miz or John Morrison never win Tough Enough? Who really knows? Kurt Angle versus Kane. Got your boy in there versus Kurt Angle. This wasn't a bad match. I mean, it kind of seemed like it was put in there at the last minute. You had that whole Kane suffering from a head trauma thing. There wasn't really too much of a feud going on here, but hope your head's all right, NJ. You had Angle healing it up, talking about the Olympics before, saying, you know, if I won my Olympic gold medal in Canada, I'll be ashamed.
Then Kane interferes and comes out. But the thing about this is that this is an example of a match that came like not built up or anything. It just seems to have just happened, and it was kind of disappointing because it's WrestleMania and the lack of build to these matches has let it down. But the match itself,
it's okay.
It was good. You get to see Kane dominate, Angle doing his skills throughout the match. So overall, it was a good match. Just saying there weren't nothing before it.
Yeah. The match, like I said, the match itself was good. You had Angle winning with his feet on the ropes, so the heel winning in a heely way. It was an okay match, but that's really it, wasn't it?
The ending looked a bit, gosh. like the commentator said, you know, like Kane's shoulder was up, and I don't know, it wasn't the best ending, but the match itself was okay, yes.
Next we get onto a good match, a match which was built up to. Ric Flair versus The Undertaker in a no disqualification match. This rivalry began at No Way Out when you had Taker assaulting Ric Flair's friends because he wanted to get a match with him because he cost him the title match at No Way Out. And then Flair ended up losing his co-ownership to actually get this match. There was a lot of build behind this, like animosity between you know, Taker and Flair, especially with him attacking his son and Arn Anderson. Yeah,
they built this up pretty well. I like the fact that, again, it was kind of surprising that, obviously, Ric Flair actually wanted this match eventually. He said no at first, but we got this match. And the way they built up to it, it's like, not the like, oh, I must see this match, but it was a challenge. It was a big match for a big icon like Ric Flair taking on Taker.
I mean, Taker was 9-0 at the time, and for a guy like Flair, a massive icon really in WCW, NWA, and even WWE in the future, for them two to have a match was, you know, it was a good match to see. I mean, the match wasn't anything great technically, but it was a good brawl, wasn't it? I mean, it's the best match of the undercard, even though there was a little bit of a weird ending sequence. It was still a good brawl, told a good story.
The fact that we had Arn Anderson getting involved, we had weapon usage, blood being drawn, we had them not giving up on each other, and we had a lot of action in the match.
And Flair's blood all over his hair.
The thing about this is that, obviously, we all knew Taker was going to win just because of how Taker is and the whole storyline. But overall, the match itself, it was strongly built up, and the match it went on for a good amount of time, which I do give it thumbs up to.
I mean, the matches before didn't, so just because this got 18 minutes, 45 seconds, it was a pleasing build with a pleasing ending with Taker winning. Good brawl.
The ending, again, it was looked a bit botched. He was trying to do his last ride, but he didn't seem to do it. But then he did this too, so he finished the match. So it made up for it. But again, I'm not going to complain. The match itself, I've put thumbs up to. It's a good match after the boring matches we had before. beautiful.
Yeah, the Arn Anderson running was pretty good as well. But we'll move on to the next match. Booker T versus Edge. Now, was it me or were these two feuding? Was the reason for this match a Japanese shampoo commercial? Why? And then you had the backstage interview with Booker T saying that he knows Einstein's theory of relatives. You're in Edge's hometown as well, so you got him as the face. This went 6 minutes. It was very short. They crammed in as much as they could, but never really got the time to be anything better than what these two guys could put on, because they're both good wrestlers, but they never got the time.
Well, the time could have been really good for this match, but the other thing that really put me down was the fact this didn't really have the build it needed. The build, like all the matches, when it comes to a WrestleMania match, it needs the build, it needs the feeling, but this match, it just lacked it all. You know, it was like last minute match, and I think for a WrestleMania match, it just weren't needed. Last minute.
Yeah, sorry, I was too busy showboating like Hogan. Should we move to the next match?
Next match.
Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Scott Hall. This all started when McMahon brought in the NWO, and they had this whole feud with Austin. So you had, right, the NWO, which consisted of, you know, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Hulk Hogan, versus Austin, the biggest draw of the Attitude Era, versus the biggest draw for WCW. And this match, considering what it was so disappointing, wasn't it? It was disappointing because it could have been so much more.
The fact that they, again, having Austin get involved with NWO may have been big back then when it was going on, thinking Austin could do something great for this. But when I look at it, you see Scott Hall in a WrestleMania match against someone as big as Austin. I was kind of thinking, it doesn't give me the feeling that it was going to be an amazing match. It should have been against like Hogan because he's the bigger draw, and it would have been a bit more blockbuster match. Which
is one thing we will say about this event. Now, we had Rock versus Hogan. Great match, you know, great front cover, brilliant front cover. But with this angle going on, the bigger draw was Austin versus Hogan, the biggest draw of the Attitude Era for WWE versus the Golden Era boy. That would have been the draw of this event if they did it correctly. You know, this is what they should have involved Austin with. But apparently, the story goes that neither of them wanted to do the job for each other. So we never really got it. Thank you, guys.
I guess they have big egos and that at the time. They do. But the thing about this is that I'm not going to complain about Rock and Hogan. No. But the thing is, at this time, you've got Austin against Scott Hall, and it just really didn't give me a positive feeling. I looked at it much and thought, okay.
I mean, Austin wasn't very happy with his creative direction at the time. Triple H was in the main event, and he felt he should have probably been in the main event. And this wasn't really as strong as it should have been. You had Austin versus the NWO, two massive draws in their respective eras, and it just didn't really live up to what it was, did it? It was a decent match, but it wasn't really what it should have been with Austin involved. You got Austin in the mid-card. You know, he's been like main eventing WrestleManias for years now, biggest draw for WWE, and he's in the mid-card against Scott Hall in a really disappointing match with another great draw in the NWO.
The thing about this is that they had the whole Kevin Nash involvement, so it was like, the way you see NWO cheating, using their tactics, using their team members. So the match itself, I think they did it properly, the way it should do, cheating to win. And again, the match itself was good for what it was, but again, it just didn't feel like a WrestleMania match to me.
Yeah, and I mean, the main everlasting thing from this was that we never got Hogan versus Austin at WrestleMania, and that is a big disappointment. In the same way that WWF never did Hogan versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. Those were two massive matches that we never actually got to see, which we probably should have at some point if Vince McMahon had his head screwed on correctly. But anyway, we'll move on. Tag team match. We had a four-way elimination match. Billy and Chuck versus Dudleys versus the Hardys versus the APA. Four good tag teams in this match. It's just a shame that last year we had TLC and they just set the bar that high that this was always going to be underwhelming, wasn't it, compared to last year's TLC?
Well, the thing is that again they had to try. They couldn't really beat TLC because TLC is just like a huge match for tag teams, and it's always going to be that way. So other matches they can try and make them entertaining. This match, it didn't fit it because it didn't have like a gimmick. Like there's no weapon usage. It was just basically just an elimination match. It
was still a decent tag match, don't get me wrong. I mean, you mostly had the Hardys and the Dudleys in there. You had a nice table spot in there, but we saw loads of those last year, so it was kind of like, oh, right, okay. And that is one of the issues of the Attitude Era. They did set the bar very high, and so anything after it was always going to seem very underwhelming, like with what we get now in the products. But, I mean, Billy and Chuck get the win. You were trying to establish them at the time, so I could understand the win. I just never understood why Dudleys and Hardys never really got a win at WrestleMania, despite how great tag teams they were.
When it comes to like a new team like Billy and Chuck,
put them over good.
Yes, they needed a win at WrestleMania to give them that big push and that they get their name out there. But when it comes to a tag team you've had in the industry for a while, which is like the Dudleys and the Hardys, like Dan said, they should have got a win at WrestleMania, so they have their special moment. So to give it to Billy and Chuck, again, yes, it may have been good, but they didn't really go anywhere.
Remember the gay marriage? You look so good to me. Yeah, exactly. Shoot me there, NJ. No. Anyway, let's move on, because we now get to talk about Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. Icon versus icon. First question here, NJ, is why the fuck wasn't this the main event? The crowd were massively hot, and it wasn't the main event.
The reason it wasn't the main event, Dan, is I don't really know. What the hell was this not main event?
Vince McMahon had his head screwed, just like he did with Michaels and Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Why didn't he have this as the main event? This drew so much crowd reaction.
That's true, but the question is, most people say the focus in the WWE, WWF should be their main titles. But when it comes to a big icon match like this, they should be the main event.
It's the front of the DVD. So, I mean, what can we really say about this? This is by far the best match on the card for me. You know, you had... God, the crowd reaction for this was unbelievable. It reminded me of Hogan versus Warrior. You know, and what was interesting about this match is the crowd were on Hogan's side. He was supposed to be the heel, and the crowd switched. They started booing the fuck out of Rock halfway through the match, and they started cheering Hogan. What a sort of good WrestleMania moment that is. That's what this match is going to be remembered for the rest of time.
Well, the thing is, again, fans love Hogan just for what he's been doing in the industry. So for him to come as an NWO member, people were meant to maybe have hated him for what he's done. But again, I think just because the way they feel about him, they were going to cheer him.
Yeah.
But The Rock himself, again, the match was just done perfectly. They both looked strong. Both did awesome moves in the match, which kept people entertained. It
wasn't about how good technically these guys were. It was about the way they drew. I mean, Hogan has always been a great crowd manipulator. And it was the way they drew a reaction from the crowd and the way that, you know, Rock switched from face to heel and started working a bit more as a heel in the match that kind of makes this match as good as it was. The crowd reaction was fantastic. One of the best crowd reactions and WrestleMania moments you'll see. It's just a shame that this card was also surrounded by mediocrity, else it could have been a great WrestleMania. I mean, Rock beats Hogan. I was kind of surprised because Hogan wouldn't do a job for Austin, but he would do a job for Rock, which kind of surprised me. But a great WrestleMania moment, wasn't it?
All I'm going to say about this match is, again, like last year's WrestleMania, there is the certain person that likes to have his part in WrestleMania, and that's Vince McMahon. So for him not to get involved in these matches was a big bonus. He could have maybe came out in, tried to screw someone, but he didn't. He let the match go exactly how it was. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were told to stay back. Clean match with them too. I give it a thumbs up. It was a really good match.
You say that though, but we still had Stephanie McMahon in the main event, which the kind of story was revolving around Triple H and Stephanie, and Jericho was kind of a bit of an afterthought. But let's stick on to this match for the time being though, because you had Rock and Hogan shake hands. After this match, you'd have Rock, Rock would put over Lesnar, who was the next big thing at the time, and do Scorpion King. We wouldn't really see too much of him again, but Hogan would go on to be face. He would sort of be like, you know, SummerSlams, WrestleManias and stuff. So do you think this was the right creative direction for WWE, having Rock go over here, and or, you know, with Hogan being the face? Because he would beat Triple H for the title at Backlash 2002. Just saying, that's a fact. You can't get away from that, MJ, despite the fact he's your boy.
Well, the thing I'm going to say about this match is The Rock winning, in my opinion, people may disagree with this, but the fact that it was going to be maybe Rock's last WrestleMania at this time, I think him giving the last win, you know, to give a send-off, because obviously before he goes on to do movies and just whatever the rest of his career.
And he was the younger guy too.
Well, that is another point. And I'm thinking, he did the right thing, but at the same time, Hogan winning, the fans were on his side, so maybe it would have been like big cheers and everything. But then again, both sided, but I'm kind of glad The Rock win.
By far the best thing on this pay-per-view, and a great WrestleMania moment, which will be ranked up there with the top 10 matches at least of WrestleMania history.
Very true, and it weren't just the match that we're going to talk about. It's the aftermatch that actually made more storyline to that match itself.
You had Hogan celebrating with The Rock. The Rock was telling Hogan to celebrate with the fans, and he's going to turn face here. You had NWO coming in, Rock and Hogan fighting them off. So they were trying to get the face seat back onto The Rock by doing this, I guess. So it was a good booking decision by WWE. And like we said, Hogan would be face and would be a kind of another draw for WWE at the time. So, yeah.
Yes, it led to Rock and Hogan teaming up, going up against NWO and stuff like that. So it was interesting.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame that you really couldn't follow this up, really, could you? I mean, you had a women's match after this, Jazz versus Lita versus Trish. You know, you had Trish in her hometown, but she wasn't getting anywhere near as reaction as she could have done, because just could never follow Hogan versus Rock because the crowd would just burn.
And also, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but focus in the match was more. It looked like Lita and Jazz, and Trish was just there because it was her hometown. She needed to be in WrestleMania. And it was kind of disappointing. But again, the match itself was good, better than what I was thinking compared to last WrestleManias.
It was definitely one of the better Divas matches. It's just a shame that the card positioning really didn't help because there was a dead crowd. You had Jazz win with a pretty nice finish. I think you had Trish win at WrestleMania 20, but you didn't have a win in her hometown. I kind of question that a little bit. I don't know, just a thought there. Because
when it comes to hometown, you normally predict that the hometown boy or girl is going to win. So sadly, it didn't happen.
A good Divas match which will just be forgotten, really.
Sadly, yes.
Similar to this main event, would you say? Because how could you follow Rock versus Hogan with you got your WWF Championship match, Chris Jericho versus Triple H. The draw of the pay-per-view, it's sometimes more stronger than the WWF title match, and this is one of the cases. Now, Jericho versus Triple H, again, the crowd were just dead for this, weren't they? They really didn't react as much as they really should have done for a WrestleMania main event. The story behind this, Jericho won the title, the Undisputed Championship with vengeance by beating Rock and Austin. Triple H came back from the quad injury to win the Royal Rumble, so you had the whole quad injury thing there. Stephanie and Triple H had their differences, with Jericho kind of being there, I guess, with the championship.
Yeah, the match itself, it had, Steph getting involved as much as she could, Jericho doing what he could to keep the title, but it all led up to just mainly the focusing on Triple H return and Stephanie McMahon. Yeah,
so Triple H, well, let's cut a long story short, the match was decent, the match was good, but it just was never going to follow Rock Hogan, and that was the problem with this pay-per-view. Triple H pedigree Stephanie McMahon, and then beats Jericho for the Undisputed Championship. Now, he came back from that quad injury. I don't know about you, NJ. We were speaking about this off camera, but I never bought Triple H as a babyface unless he was with someone like Shawn Michaels who could get that babyface seat. Do you know what I mean? Which is, I don't know, it's kind of this WrestleMania main event. I just can't buy Triple H as a babyface. That's just an issue with me. But go on, give your thoughts.
Well, they were needing a character change sometime in their career. They were going to try Triple H as a face. And for him to work with big wrestlers in the industry, he needed to be either a heel and a face. So I'm two-sided about this, but he does play a better heel, and he is the guy that got me into wrestling by being the heel he is.
Yeah, I mean, a decent to good main event, but Rock and Hogan should have been the main event. I think we're both in agreement here about this. Even with Triple H, even though you like Triple H, you still think that Rock and Hogan should have been the main event, really.
Well, with them being advertised as the big thing for this WrestleMania, for them to be on the DVD cover, for them to be the whole icon, for them to be who they are, they should have been the main event.
Yeah, and Jericho was a little bit of an afterthought in this, which I always thought was disappointing, especially with a young heel like Jericho. But Jericho loses, and he would later become a star for WWE anyway, so, yeah, you know what I mean. What about after this WrestleMania, though? Historical significance. You had the brand extension, which I guess you could say some kind of significant thing. Then you had the whole draft thing as well, and Brock Lesnar being introduced to the WWE Universe with the title at SummerSlam over Rock.
That's the thing, because even though WrestleMania weren't that good, or maybe had its bad points, the aftermatch led on to bigger, better things, or bad things, in case, however you want to see it, for WWE. So I guess it had its good points following on from this until the next WrestleMania.
It was afterwards that they had so much talent that they couldn't do it on both brands, so they had to just split the brands up because they had a lot of talent, and it showed on this card because you had 11 matches. They wanted to try and get all their talent on there, and a lot of talent ended up getting not enough time to really showcase themselves. That was a big issue with this WrestleMania, in my opinion, and a reason why it kind of stunk of mediocrity, apart from maybe Rock versus Hogan, which was miles above everything else.
And that comes to what we're going to be saying now. Again, this is a WrestleMania. It's meant to have big matches, career-changing things. In my opinion, a lot of these matches, especially the beginning,
mediocrity.
They just were just put in, didn't have the build that they needed. They just had matches just to fit up the card and to get certain wrestlers on a WrestleMania. It's just a bit of a shame, but at least the main events, in my opinion, saved the rest of the show for me.
Yeah, I mean, you had Rock Hogan, it should have been the main event, and that is a bad booking decision by Vince McMahon there. The main event itself was decent. The Undertaker Flair match was decent. They could have done so much more with Austin as Scott Hall, in my opinion. Maybe had Austin versus Hogan. That would have been a bigger drawing match, and then have Rock versus Scott Hall maybe. But I mean, a lot of matches on there did stink of mediocrity, and it was just that one Hogan versus Rock match just really brought it up to make maybe like a C- for me this WrestleMania.
The way I'm going to give it is just because of the main events. Really, I'm just going to give it a C because it just gave me a feeling that obviously the main event saved it, and they went on and did other things afterwards. So see for me.
Yeah, so you've heard our thoughts on WrestleMania 18. Make sure you tune in soon for WrestleMania 19. That's going to be a good one. That is going to be a good WrestleMania, NJ. Get your thoughts on this WrestleMania down in that comment section below. And after 25 minutes of listening to us ramble, well, you get to hear NJ do an outro. So if you've been here just to watch NJ get an outro, you've wasted 25 minutes of time. But if you were here to watch the WrestleMania review, you succeeded. Figure it out.
Okay, people, well, thank you for tuning in to another WrestleMania review with the British Pissed, Mr. Parkin, and me, NJ. This has been a not-so-great WrestleMania. It's had its good points, it's had its bad points. Leave your comment in the comment section below. Until next time, people, goodbye.